Hey team, this is Hector, and today we're going to cover deletion. The first function I want to cover is removeAll. Should be very simple. It's not going to take any parameters, and we're just going to set head to no, set tail to no, and set count to 0. Cool. Now we're going to work on pop. This one should be fairly simple as well. We're not going to take any parameters. It's not going to return anything. We're just going to say self head equals self head next. And we're going to de-increment count by 1. That will be pop. And what pop is doing is we're just setting the head to the next head, essentially removing the first. So the first, we're unlinking the first one, the first node, and we're setting the first node to the next node. That's what we're doing here, which is doing a pop pretty much. The next one we'll be calling it remove, and let's name it remove. I'm gonna take a parameter index, type int. It's not going to return anything. And the first thing I want to do is I want to check if index is equal to 0. That way we can just do a pop. Now we're going to check if the index is between is greater or equal to 1, and if index is less than or equal to the count minus 1, right? Because we only want to edit the linked list if we're in the range. And this should be an else if. And then next, I want to create a copy of the head. That way we were able to relink it to the head once we're done iterating through the list. I also want to keep track of a previous node, That way we can keep. So what we're going to do in this function is we're going to keep track of the previous node and just link the previous node with the next node, essentially just removing the middle node from the linked list, right? So then this is going to be of type optional node. Right now we're just going to set it to no, and we're going to create a count, and we're going to keep track of the index with I. We're just going to set that to 0. And now we're just going to do another while loop to iterate through. We want to say self head. Well, self head does not equal no. Also, does not equal no. Then we're going to check if I equals index. And then here is where we will break out of the loop. And here we're just going to say previous equals self head, right? Which will be the current, will be the previous because we're going to iterate to the next head right now. And to iterate through the next head, say self head equals next. And also we need to increment our I to 1 by 1. And here we actually need to say previous next. So here's we're actually just going to start linking our previous with our next. So that would simply just be self head. This being the node that we want to remove, right? So once we find that node, we break out and we set we break out and we set the heads next, right? So now we have to link the previous with the next, which will be this one. The next thing we gotta do is we gotta relink the head to the head copy. And we also need to increment the count by 1 because we're removing a node. So we need to de-increment by 1. And yeah, that should be it. Now let's try out all these methods. So now that we finish our 3 deletion functions, let's try them out. First, we're going to try pop and then remove, and then we'll try removeAll. So first, let's say link list pop, and let's check the array. So we can say list array, and let's make sure the account is correct as well. Let's run that. So yeah, so we popped 0. The first one will be 0. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the count is 5. So that's correct. Now let's try the remove function. So we're going to say remove that. Let's remove index 2, which would be 0, 1, 2, 3, which will be number 3, right? So let's also check the list array, and then let's also check the count. List count. I want to make sure we have the correct count. And yep, we removed number 3, and we got 4 back. I also want to test out the remove at 0, make sure that works. So we're going to remove at 0, and again, we're going to do our list array and also check our count. So we're removing at 0, index 0, which would be 1. So now we get 2, 4, 5 back and a 3. The last thing I want to check is the removeAll. And we want to check that our link list is an empty array. Now we get a 0 back. Cool. So that works. So we stick to the end. We're going to do an extra function called at, where we're able to find a specific node.index. So let's work on that. So we're going to call this at. It's going to take an index parameter, type in. We're also going to return a node. That will be optional. First, let's create a copy of the head. I'm going to call this head copy and equal that to subhead. Now we're going to iterate through our list. We're going to say, well, self-head does not equal nil. Going to keep iterating through. Of course, to go to our next node, we're going to say self-head equals next. Here, you're also going to need to create we're going to create a variable I to hold our current index, and we're going to save I equals index, and we're going to return that node. So we're going to say self.head, so because we're incrementing the linked list, so we'll be able to find it. And then here we need to increment our I by 1, right? That. The next thing we need to do is return nil, in case we don't find our index. Actually, let's just write a good if statement here. Let's say garlet and guard index index is greater than or equal to 0, and index is less than or equal to the count minus 1. Just to make sure we get the correct, else we'll return nil. Just make sure we have the right range. But then here we're going to return nil regardless if it fails. Yeah, and the last thing we got to do is we need to reset our head by making it equal to the copy. And I believe that should be it. Yeah, that should be it. And let's try it out. So let's do it up here before we start removing things. So let's find number 2. Again, let's find 2 before we delete it. And this is going to return a node, so we can just say value here. You can force a method because we know it exists, and we can just check our value, which I believe should be number 3. Yep, so 0, 1, 2, which will be the value of 3. Cool. So that's it for today. Today we covered 3 deletion functions and also a find function called that. I'll leave a link for the gist in the bottom. And I'll catch you next time.